Fury Media presents Rumble vs. the Airwaves, a music, nostalgia, gaming, and culture podcast. I'm Tim, and here's Rumble.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for listening to Rumble vs. the Airwaves. On today's show, we're going to talk to Kamtin Mahager from acts such as 303, Heavenward, Teenage Wrist, and the Chain Gang of 1974. We're going to look at what's going on in pop culture that's got our attention this week. We're going to introduce a new segment called Captured with a concert photographer named Nick Zimmer. And finally, DIY or Die with Will Birdwell about pre-production and what to do in the studio. What's up, Tim?
What's going on, Rumble?
Not much. I just had a very full weekend of music. 2 shows with that band that we had on a few episodes ago. Nevertheless, played some bass for them. It was a lot of fun.
Right on. How's TJ doing?
TJ's doing great.
I saw he was in the
Rocking out.
studio.
Yeah. TJ, he's always working on something.
That was a nice studio, dude.
Yeah. He's got a good hookup. But yeah, he records all of the parts on all of the songs. Like, he really just has a live... Well, Corey does the saxophone, but other than that, he really just has a live band. It's just him in the studio. It's really impressive. He's doing great. We got to play Punk Rock Flea Market, which, if you're in the Florida scene, it's a pretty decent thing. Travels around the state. A lot of fun. I never got to play it before. Tons of fun.
What was the coolest vendor they had there?
Coolest... Oh, dude, I don't know. There were so many people just, like, selling homemade shirts and jewelry that I thought
What's
were really cool.
the first one that pops in your mind?
The first one that pops into my mind was specifically, I don't remember the exact name of it, but it was clothing. And it was a friend of mine. His name is Drake, and he plays in a band called The Horribles down here in Florida. And they're cool as hell. And like, he was the first person I saw as soon as I walked into this big crowded area. His stuff is really, really cool. It's Drake fucking Rogers on Instagram if you want to look him up. Cool dude. But yeah, I had a lot of fun at that show. And I also got to open up for touring band Keep Flying, this big ska band with like 10 people. It's awesome. They put on just a stupid show. Like, I'm talking, the horn players are on top of each other. They busted out a ladder in the middle of the stage and the horn players got on it and played. Just ridiculous. Unreal.
I need to see if there's any footage from that. I need to see that.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm sure you can find footage on YouTube. So definitely check them out too. Keep Flying.
How was White Castle?
Oh, so worth it. So worth it. My personal project, my friends in Of Men and Manatees, check us out. We went to White Castle instead of practicing this one day, which is really like not a good decision because we don't get time to practice as often as we should. So the fact that we wasted a whole day on White Castle wasn't a great move, but I think it was worth it. I spent like $15. I got like 6 sliders and a fuck ton of fries.
Did you get the little chicken things?
Yeah, dude. I got some of the little chicken things and a chicken slider too, dude. I think the overall consensus was like, it was a good trip, except our drummer, Hayden, who's from New Jersey, but had never been to White Castle, weirdly enough. He was like, this is it. Like, he
Didn't like it.
It's not that he didn't like it. It's just like, this is what we drove 2 hours for. He didn't get it, but that's fine. It's fine. Not everyone gets it.
It was also about the trip.
Yeah, you're so right, Tim. It was about the trip. All right, now let's head over to our talk with Kamtin. What's up, Kamtin? Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Did you see the solar eclipse today?
I did. And my eyes are actually still kind of fucked.
Yeah.
I used the protective glasses, and after 5 seconds of looking at it, my eyes are still completely strained. I don't know what the hell happened.
Really? I mean, me and Tim were just looking at it a minute ago.
Yeah.
We have these glasses here. I don't know if they're the same ones you have.
Yeah, that's the exact same. I got them off Amazon, and I like probably less than 5 seconds. And
oh, damn.
And same thing happened. My wife, she was actually on her own running errands and like had glasses looked, and she's like, my eyes are killing me.
I don't think me and Tim had any issues.
No.
Man, that sucks. Maybe you got a defective pair or something.
Maybe it's that LA sunshine. It's just a little dirtier. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Over here in Florida, I don't know.
You guys probably have some dirty sunshine too.
Yeah, a little bit, especially where we live. We're not in the glamorous part of Florida.
No. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah,
it ain't so glamorous over here, especially these days.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm curious though. You said you're from LA.
Yeah, I moved here back in 2011. So I've been here for, wow, it's wild, 13 years now.
Yeah, okay. I mean, LA is obviously like this place that's just huge in media, music and movies and stuff like that. I'm watching Modern Family right now, and they either live like in or around LA. And so it's got me thinking, like, how accurate is it? I've never been. How accurate do you see it in the media?
In the media in general, I mean, I think just like a lot of things in life and in this world, there are two sides to it all. LA obviously is the LA that you do see in media. I think it all kind of comes down to, I think, how you choose to live in LA. You can kind of fall in line with, I think, the cliche stories that LA does bring, whether that's going out every night and doing this, doing that, and trying to, be friends with people strictly for status. Or you just kind of find your bubble. You find what it is that kind of just makes you happy outside of, I think, the standard LA expectations. And that's what I chose. That's the path that I chose. It's a weird place for sure. I feel like it's only getting weirder.
Yeah, I hear that.
I feel like everywhere has gotten weirder post-pandemic.
Oh, absolutely. Especially like the super densely populated places.
Oh my God. Yeah. So yeah, I think, it's a rad place. It's definitely changed, I think, since I moved here. And I think when I kind of started to visit LA in like my younger teen years, I'm not saying the magic's gone. I've had this debate with a few friends, my older brother as well, but it could just be part of getting older and your perspective changes on things. I'm 38 years old now, so it could just be due to aging. But there is a part of the city that it just doesn't feel like it used to. And in a kind of in a negative way. It lost a little bit of that spark, but who knows?
I totally hear that. Yeah, no, my hometown, I don't live too far from where I grew up. Post-pandemic, they've really started like renovating the hell out of it. In my opinion, like I agree with you, it comes at the cost of like, maybe it's just looking back at like with rose-tinted glasses, like maybe I'm just nostalgic for the old playground. And I'm a little pissed that they replaced it.
Yeah.
Yeah, things lose their sparkle as you get older, I guess. What a depressing note. Tell me about... So, have you always lived in California?
No, I was born in Northern California, like Santa Clara area, but it was only there for 3 years. And then my entire family, we all moved to the big island of Hawaii, where we lived in a really, really small town called Waikoloa. So there are kind of two sides to that island. There's the dry side and like the wet side. So we were on the kind of like the western, just slightly east of the coast, dry side of the island. So was in Hawaii for 10 years, which was pretty special and pretty incredible. I have 3 brothers, so they were just like 4 boys. We were just, running amok around that island and trying to find as much fun as possible with limited resources. I think a lot of my personality and think how I view life, I owe to, spending my childhood there. And at age 13, we all moved to Colorado. So I moved to the Denver suburbs and I was there till about age 25. And then, signed my first record deal, got an in-pocket advance of $5,000. I was like, I'm moving to Los Angeles and I'm still living off that $5,000.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, kind of saw a few different places. So I'm
for sure.
Grateful I kind of got to experience that. But yeah, now LA for about 13 years, which is pretty wild.
That's awesome. Dude, living in Hawaii must have been really something.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Like you hear about it like as a kid, like it's some like magical place.
Yeah.
But that was just like your house.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I just, I was stoked because I was finally able to bring my wife there. We went back in October. So she kind of got to see where I grew up. And it was it's pretty tough to explain, to be honest with you, just because you're so far removed from most of what you see on TV. And, you see these real simple things that you would just kind of watch on like Nickelodeon or MTV and stuff like that. And you would just kind of sit there and daydream, wish you had some sort of access to that, but you didn't. You were pretty much just locked on this island and surrounded by a shit ton of water. But with that, going back to kind of, we were left with our own devices around that time where we really, my brothers and I really got into music. There was a pretty stellar alternative rock station, which I believe it could have been on the island of Oahu. I don't remember if it was on Oahu or the Big Island, but we got it regardless. And that was like the birth of my love for music, just listening to a lot of the stuff there. And, whether it was playing with Legos or playing inline hockey in the backyard, or just, putting on the Offspring or, Weezer, 311, all that stuff we hear on the radio. And at the time, MTV was a channel that only played music videos. yeah, spent a lot of time in front of the radio and TV and just gathering knowledge and shaping myself for the future, essentially.
Yeah. With your family, are the rest of them musical, or are you like the only one?
I'm pretty much the only one. I think there's a lot of
Mm.
love for music in the family. And I was in a band at one point, I think at age 19 or 20 with two of my brothers. We were like a local Denver band. We were trying to be Interpol meets the Stills and all that stuff. And, Kings of Leon were really cool back then. It was the brother band.
Oh, totally.
We were like,
totally.
oh, this would be rad, So yeah, they play, but they all kind of went off to do real jobs. Yeah, one's a dentist, one's like a CPA. Like I'm the only one to kind of continue to carry the torch.
Well, I mean, hey, it's not a bad job to have.
That's okay.
Yeah. So when did you start, at what point did you start going out and performing live?
I think the very first time I ever got on a stage, I actually have the video of it. It was with one of my real good buddies, Andrew, who's still a really good friend of mine, but we were in just this, what were we called? Long time coming. We were just, I don't know what the fuck we were doing. But the video, he's wearing like a No Motive t-shirt. We were both probably 15 or 16, playing in this place in Littleton, Colorado called, not Angelo's. Angelo's was a record shop. I don't remember the name of the record shop or the music store, but yeah, he's wearing like a No Motive shirt. I'm wearing a Get Up Kid shirt. We're just like 15, 16-year-old kids who had no idea what the hell we were doing, but just up there playing. So that was the first time I ever did it. And then from there, kind of just, I think that quote unquote band lasted for, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months. And that's kind of how it worked back then. You're just in a band and it lasted about like 2 practices and it was over.
Yeah.
But I guess it gave me the itch, it kind of made me realize, oh, I could do this,
Totally.
I can maybe somehow do this one day. And it was fun. Those were the fun days, a lot less pressure.
Yeah. How did the parents feel about it? Especially like
I
all
think
three
they were
of you being in the
stoked.
band?
I think they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. My parents didn't come to that specific show. My brother did. He had to drive me. I didn't have a driver's license. So he drove me there and watched us. I think it was all Crescendo music. That could have been it. I think they were stoked. I think they were, it was cool having 3 brothers because, we were kind of able to do everything together. So we were all really, really into hockey. So growing up, we'd be able to play 2-on-2, like any sport, it'd be 2-on-2.
Totally.
Any video game, we were able to kind of make it work. And same with music. So it was one day, I think I was 15 or 16, my parents took us to Guitar Center and in the same day bought a drum kit, a guitar, and a bass. So we all just kind of, my younger brother was like, I'm on drums, other ones I'm on guitar. And I grew up like a really big MXPX fan. So I was like, I'm going to, my career, I'm going to play bass guitar. So
hell yeah.
That was I chose that. And yeah, it was cool to kind of be able to do that and have, I guess, immediately have the ability to jam with people.
Totally.
Yeah.
I've got 2 brothers and one of them also plays bass. I also play. It's just a family of bass players.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I love it.
But yeah, it's so fun to just be able to your jam buddy is just the guy in the next room.
What kind of bass do you play?
P bass.
Nice. I came to the conclusion kind of recently that I'm a P bass guy. That's it.
Yeah, man.
Like, I don't know if I want to play. I have a P bass and I have a Jag bass, which the Jag bass was my baby for quite some time. And then I trashed it on stage one night. It kind of just like lived in the closet for years. And I recently got it repaired and played a show. The last Heavenward show we played, I used the Jag and really wasn't a fan. I think I've just was so accustomed to the P bass at that point that it was this moment of like, oh, okay, P bass as it is.
Yeah, I had this, my first like nice-ish bass was a Jaguar bass.
Oh, sick.
It was a signature bass for the guy from Mastodon, whose name I'm blanking on right now.
Those are beautiful basses. I love the way those
like the silver burst. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was super pretty, and that's what drew me to it. But man, I did not like the way it played.
Interesting.
And eventually I got an old Squier P bass and it sounded like shit because it was a Squier from the 2000s.
Yeah.
But I loved the way it played. And so I've been playing that for years now. And between breaking it and just, upgrading parts for the sake of having nicer parts, the only original part on it anymore is the body.
Okay.
So I'm not even sure if I can call it a Squier anymore.
Yeah, probably not at this point.
Yeah, that's my part space.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I have mad respect for jazz basses and jazz bass players. They're all like, oh, they're so versatile. But they're sleeping on the P bass, bro.
I don't like the body of a jazz.
No, not your thing.
It's not my thing. I don't like the way, I mean, and this is like, this is a vanity focused thing, but I don't like the way I look. It's like, it just looks too big on me. It feels too big. And I played a handful of I was playing a Jack Cassidy hollow body for quite a while. I really liked that. That was fun.
Talk about big basses.
Yeah, but it was, it worked in a certain way. I really love the band Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. So like, I was watching them play and they all play hollow bodies. I was like, be kind of sick to get one. So in the early Chain Gang days, I was playing one. I played a Thunderbird for a little bit when I was 303. Those are really cool, sound great, but insanely top heavy.
Yeah, I've played a couple of them.
You let go of the neck and it's instantly falling down, which is crazy. But yeah, I think after playing a few different basses, I've come to it. The P basses, I'll probably die a P bass player.
I think I have the exact opposite problem with you when it comes to size of basses.
Are they all too small?
Yeah, I'm 6'4". I'm like a solid 300 pounds. I'm a big guy.
Dude, I'm like 5'10" on a good day. So yeah.
My first bass was a Squire Bronco, which is one of the 3/4. My dad bought it for me. It is like bottom line Squire bass. Like it's a Strat pickup. It's not even a bass pickup.
That's amazing.
It's 3/4 scale, and that's what I learned on.
I'm gonna have to Google that.
Yeah, but once I got my hands on a full size bass, it was my hands are too big for that. That'll can't be doing that. You mentioned playing bass for 303. That's super cool. Can you tell us about like how that sort of happened?
Yeah, no, they so we this is going back to the Colorado days. So I met Sean during the very tail end of my old band, The Vanity, the band that I was in with my brothers. So I think it was a tail end. I already kind of knew I was like experimenting with electronic music and such. And I was like, starting to kind of get the brain going as to how I can do this live. I had no idea. It was a different time back then. So I ended up seeing Sean. We were kind of just like chatting. Didn't really know each other too well back then, but I was like, hey, I know, 303 does this. What kind of cables do you guys use? Blah, blah, blah. And he kind of filled me and I was like, awesome. So they obviously, this is maybe a year later, or less than a year later, they were really starting to take off around town, selling out a place in Boulder, Colorado called the Fox Theater, which is probably 500 to 600 cap. It's a big room. Selling out like Aggie and Fort Collins, the Marquee in Denver, so substantially sized rooms, and they were just selling them out. So everyone in town was talking about 303. They had a show at the Marquee in Denver, and this was back in the MySpace days. So this is a while ago. So this is probably 2007. And their show had a to be announced opener. So I just took a shot, emailed them on MySpace, and they got back to me after a couple of days and were like, yeah, this shit sounds cool. You're on the show. It's like, awesome. So it was literally that moment, like at that show, we all just kind of became brothers. And so they would continue to ask me to play with them around town. They would do all these sold out shows. I would continue to be the opener. And then in 2008, I was working at Monster Energy. I somehow finagled my way to become the music rep for Colorado. I kind of just so the job started with me driving around the giant truck and just handing out drinks. So,
dude, you had the dream job of every scene kid.
I can't remember how old I was. It was maybe 20, 21. I can't even remember. But that's
so cool.
Dude, I mean, they paid $14 an hour back then. Like, it was a good amount of money.
Jesus.
Yeah.
In 2008?
2006, 2007. So it was like, they were paying a lot of money. So I somehow finagled my way to convince not only the manager, but also corporate to be like, hey, let me be the Denver music rep, and I will provide shit for bands when they come to town, et cetera. And they bought the idea. So I would just get paid to go to shows. It was awesome. So in 2008, they reached out like, hey, we're doing a MySpace music tour. It's going to be like us as the headliner, this band Interparty System. And then we want you to be on it. It's like a 65, 70 day tour. We'll be on a tour bus. We'll give you 2 bunks on the bus. Just like, come do it. I was like, fuck yes, this is amazing. So an unbelievable experience. Came back home and, went back to work for like 4 days. I was like, this sucks. Like, I can't do this. Like, there's no way in hell I can live my life doing this anymore. I know what it is I need to do because I got to experience it. Fortunately, their manager at the time called me as I was walking into work and was just like, hey, the band's at a point where they want to have a live band and they want you to be in it. We basically have the next 2.5 years planned. Do you want to come on board? I was like, absolutely. Yeah, I'm still very grateful. And we're buds. I mean, I left my role as the bass player in 2010 when Chain Gang signed to Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Ever since then, whenever there's like kind of a show that deems appropriate to have the band and like the full 5-piece band, I'll get a call. So I'm at this point, I'm usually doing like 1 to 2 shows a year with them, which is it's always so much.
It must be like really special though.
Oh, I mean,
like just like those shows you do get to do.
It's crazy. I mean, we just have like the moment we're in the room together is just it's just just laughing, off jokes. Just it's so much fun. So we just did the Mission Ballroom in Denver first week of March. So that was really, really cool. And yeah, we'll see if anything else. I'm not sure what they're doing. They're playing the When We Were Young Fest, which we all played together 2 years ago. I'm not sure what their plan is quite yet for that show, but yeah, hopefully we'll all kind of be together for that one too.
Dope.
Yeah.
You played We Were Young, the first one?
Yeah, I did it. Yeah, it was the very first one, which was fucking wild. It was.
I was going to say, how was that?
Yeah.
You know what? It was one of the best put together festivals I've ever played in my entire life. And like I've done Coachella, Lollapalooza, Austin City Limits, whatever. And like that was so well organized. And it was pretty wild because so day one, everyone knew that there was going to be, there were very high wind warnings, like pretty gnarly wind. We're talking like, 40 miles an hour kind of stuff. So everyone was kind of like, what's going to happen on day one? And long story short, around 9:30 in the morning, because we had a lobby call like, I think 9 or 10 a.m. to go to the festival ground, start getting stuff ready. And before we could even jump in the car to take us to the festival grounds, we got the word that day one was canceled. So you now put thousands and thousands and thousands of people who were all supposed to be at this festival who now have nothing to do but fucking party. Starting at 10:30 in the morning, it was just, absolute mayhem because like no one could do anything. It was like too windy to go outside. And it was just like, all right, well, hopefully the show goes on tomorrow. Guess we're just going to have a good time for right now. So yeah, it was a pretty fun first day. And unfortunately, day 2 went down and then we came back home for like 4 days and then went back out for the second weekend. So yeah, it was a really, really fun festival.
Dope.
Yeah.
That's super cool. So you left 303 to do Chain Gang. I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
Like what mainly inspired you to do that? And what does the Chain Gang of 1974 mean?
So second question, first and foremost, I hate the band name. I really wish I could have changed it 10 years ago, especially before the 1975 hit the scene. That's been the death of me. But the Chain Gang 1974, I was a really big fan of Ryan Adams at the time. And I was a really big fan of the Ravenettes. Still love the Ravenettes.
Okay.
But the Ravenettes had a record called Chain Gang of Love. And Ryan Adams had like a song called 1974. So I was like,
okay,
the Chain Gang in 1974, but also going back to my love for BRMC, which is Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. It was a different time. You can kind of get away with longer names. The pain of being pure at heart, like all that stuff. So
I regularly listen to a band called The World Is a Beautiful Place, and I'm no longer afraid to die.
I toured with them. They're great bands.
They're awesome, aren't they? Yeah.
So,
but I don't.
Yeah,
I think the name is excusable.
And then what was your first question again?
Like what inspired the switch into going for your own solo stuff?
Well, so it was basically like, so our deal with our parents. So I come from a Persian upbringing. My mom and dad are from Iran. So it's a very strict kind of like, education is taken extremely serious. Like you will go to college and, hopefully become a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. And 3 out of their 4 kids now are like, dressing like we're in the Strokes and being like, hey, we want to be in a band and do what we want to do. So we were getting some label attention, the old band, The Vanity. There were some whispers here and there. And we actually ended up getting a record deal from this indie label, which was doing some kind of cool things. But they basically came to us. They're like, okay, because we were all in college. So they're like, you can take 6 months off, pursue this, just do it, and if you don't get the record deal in 6 months, you're going back to school. We're like, deal. So during that time, we did invest a little bit of money into super simple recording gear, just Pro Tools, simple interfaces, etc. So I kind of took it upon myself to kind of start learning just the simple ins and outs of all that stuff. Yeah, one day, basically, my brothers were like, we're done. We don't want to do this anymore. We're all going to go to college and do everything. And I was kind of like, well, I've learned so much. I feel like it'd be somewhat idiotic to just let this knowledge go to waste. And I'm still young. I need to try this. So that kind of burst the project. So I would just sit in my room, and I couldn't play guitar. So I would just plug my bass into a big muff, run the distortion insanely high, and create this, this is also when like Death from Above 1979 were just hitting the scene. So having just a bass guitar and drums was could be a thing. And yeah, just kind of started experimenting and playing, making songs, and would make an EP and just play with all the screamo, post-hardcore emo bands around the Colorado scene, whether it was like a basement of a coffee shop, church basements, just wherever would do it. Kind of started hitting a little bit of a stride, and headlining 100 cap rooms and selling them out, and it was like a kind of just like a pretty cool scene that was going on at the time. And this is 2006. I believe the first Chain Gang show was 2006.
Okay,
the very end of it. So kind of one thing led to another, and I think as I kind of continued to grow the project, my sound was very limited due to my skill set limitations of like not really playing guitar and not being the best producer out there. So around 2008, 9, I finally kind of started linking up with some external producers, and we would collaborate, and the sound started to grow. And that gave me, I think, the ability to be like, okay, I know how to write songs. Let me write actual songs as opposed to just cool sounding parts. Let me do this thing. And from there, it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And then in 2010, I got offered a record deal from Warner Brothers and signed it. And then the rest is a very long history with that.
So I do want to move on to talking about Heavenward. Before we do that, real quick, I do want to say you did just celebrate 10 years, the 10-year anniversary of Daydream Forever, right?
Yeah. 10 years.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Fantastic album.
Thank you.
What led to Heavenward?
Necessity, in a way. I missed it. So after deciding to leave Teenage Wrist in 2019, I kind of was just like, it was during the pandemic, feelings and emotions were already kind of leading up to that moment. And I was just like, I just want to make some songs. Like I started grabbing guitar, just started writing ideas and writing songs, and, came to the realization, I'm like, oh, okay, these are actually kind of cool. And then, I knew that the fan base of Teenage Wrist, and I think that I've talked about this before. I think there are now two life forms of Teenage Wrist. There's what it is now, and there's what it was before. So I think there's obviously a large amount of people who went to what it is now, and a large, or maybe a smaller amount of people who are kind of like, hey, we missed what you were doing with the band. So I was like, hey, there could be an audience for this. And here it is now, and the debut record's out, and it's done very well. But look, I'm not trying to be a rock star. I'm not trying to tour. I'm not trying to do any of that stuff with this project. It's really just for fun. And it's been fun, which is awesome. We have the bands, and whenever bands I love and respect just reach out like, yeah, we're playing LA. We'd love for you guys to play. I'm like, absolutely, let's do it. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's dope. I also wanted to ask about the most recent single. You were collaborating with
Oversize.
Oversize. That's it. I listened to that before we started the interview. Fantastic song.
Hell yeah. No, they're super rad dudes. We connected probably a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, just via social media. They just reached out. Actually, they hired me to do the design work for their last record or EP. I can't remember what it was. So we kind of just got a lot of talking, and they opened up. They're just like, hey, the Teenage Wrist album, Chrome Down Jesus, like, it's just such a big thing for us. And I was like, that's fucking awesome. So we kind of became internet buddies, and yeah, they ended up reaching out. We're just like, hey, we have this song. We'd love for you to do a feature if you want to check it out. And I did. And it's funny. I'll usually never touch a song if I don't have the ability to write on it. I'm very against someone writing something for me and me just singing it. I don't do that. I've never done that in my life. But they sent me the song. It was so good, and everything is what I would have done anyways. So they're like, we want you to just sing the second verse. I was like, let's do it. I don't care that I didn't write a single note on this song, So I kind of take pride in saying that, because they did a really fantastic job on that track. And yeah, it was really cool. I'm stoked to be a part of it. I think people are enjoying it, so it's cool.
Hell yeah. I certainly enjoyed it.
Nice.
This has been a blast.
Right on.
Any plans for Any new releases coming up or any shows or anything you plan on doing in the future?
Yeah, Heavenward. We're playing with Static Dress at Chain Reaction on the 25th of this month, so that'll be a lot of fun. Another group of UK boys who were fans of Teenage Risk. We all became friends, and so I'm stoked they asked me to do it. We're playing with that band Perish in LA on May 1st. That'll be a lot of fun. And then we have a show after that, which we can't announce until after that show. But it's a very, very, very sick show, and I'm very excited about it. My record label, Fever Limited, we're about to announce a new signing, and we've got some new stuff coming on the label. So I'm pumped. Yeah, it's going to be a fun year.
Awesome. What was the name of that label again?
It's called Fever Limited. So I have some great bands on it that, Chain Gang and Heavenward stuff all comes out through that. And we have a band called Muted Color from Chicago, really great shoegaze band, dream pop band, and then really epic kind of alternative grunge band called Mascara from France. So we just signed a new band. We're going to announce it a week from Wednesday. So I'm really pumped.
Awesome.
Right on.
All right. Well, don't forget to check out the new Heavenward album and the new single. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. You have a great rest of your day, all right?
All right. Peace.
See ya.
Hey, Rumble.
So are you familiar with the name JoJo Siwa?
Yes, my daughters used to wear the bows.
Yeah, so you're familiar with her comeuppance?
Yes.
Okay, so like her start on Dance Moms and whatnot, and then she wound up being like a big child star for a while and was really obnoxious. And now she wants everyone to know that she's an adult now and doesn't want to dress up in big, obnoxious pink and yellow and blue clothing, but wants to dress up in the same exact clothing but black and wear Gene Simmons makeup but not know who Gene Simmons is.
Because she's a bad girl.
Because she's a bad girl and she did some bad things, like wrap a car with a bunch of her faces and cut people off in traffic. Like, she's such a bad girl. So this whole rebrand is really, really funny. It makes me think about some artists that had actually good rebrands that are similar to her, like Miley Cyrus and Lady Gaga, or more recently, someone like Olivia Rodrigo, who pulled it off really well because they weren't big and obnoxious about it.
Well, talk about rebrands, dude. Taylor Swift.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Taylor Swift is the queen of rebrands. She rebrands like every 5 years. But anyway, there are good and bad ways to rebrand yourself. And if you want people to start taking you seriously, maybe act in a manner where people will take you seriously. Maybe act like an adult instead of this like main character syndrome she has. Another part of me kind of thinks it's like a little bit, no, like she is not excused for being the person she is. And I'm not, let me get something straight. I'm not just shitting on JoJo Siwa because she's corny. She's also said some questionable things and defended the honor of some questionable people who have been called out for bad things. Do your homework on that. I don't feel like explaining all of it. She's definitely to blame for all of that stuff. She's not excused for it. But also, I was watching this video about like old clips from Dance Moms. Her mom is awful. Her mom is a piece of shit who treated JoJo like she was Jesus Christ and she could do no wrong. Like the dance instructor was wrong all the time. JoJo was always right. JoJo was number one. No wonder she has this fucking...
Would you say her mom gave her narcissism?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And there's even this clip of the dance instructor like, your fucking kid is going to grow up to be a self-centered piece of shit. And that's what she's doing right now. She's being a self-centered piece of shit, claiming she's inventing gay pop like Elton John, David Bowie, and Freddie Mercury didn't pave the way for her. She posting videos of just fake tattoos on her arms to make herself seem like this tough ass fucking... If you want to be an adult, be an adult. You're not being an adult. She's being a kid. Anyway.
I get exactly what you're saying.
All that to say, the song is terrible. The song is terrible. A lot of people are saying that she stole it too from this Britt Smith person who no one had heard of before all of this came out. It was really funny. People were giving JoJo grief for not knowing who Britt Smith was, but neither did anybody else. Britt Smith was a person who released one song in 2012 and then decided she didn't want to be in the music industry. So no, nobody knew who Britt Smith was except for her friends. No, JoJo bought the rights to the song just like pretty much all pop stars do. The problem with her song is it's completely ingenuine. She was not a bad girl. She was the epitome of like rainbow unicorn vomit onto a child. And it just, I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way, and it's rubbing a lot of other people the wrong way. What's up with you, Tim? What's going on in your world right now?
After Rumble's rant, I've just been nerding out, bro.
Yeah?
I record, I do my stuff, and I nerd out.
What are you nerding out over right now?
New Deadpool trailer finally got released again.
Nice.
Second Deadpool trailer, and dude, I can't wait.
It's still leaning into the whole...
I don't want to spoil stuff. I don't want to get too into it, but
for sure,
it is going to be fucking game changing.
Give me just like a brief overview of why it's so special.
I grew up with the X-Men movies. I grew up with the comic books, the TV show, and X-Men 97's out right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's great too. I don't know, dude. Maybe it's just me, like everybody, but Marvel's had a lot of issues over the years.
Yeah.
Really hitting home and really making a good movie. Since like Endgame, dude.
Yeah.
This is going to be Endgame level.
All right. Okay. I'm definitely interested.
And it's going to lead into Secret Wars, and that's going to be hopefully bigger than Endgame.
Dope. Up until this movie, like, I don't think I've seen any X-Men movies. Like, I don't think I've seen any of the
You've never
old
seen
ones,
any of the Fox
new ones.
X-Men movies? Then they
really
rebooted them.
I really don't think so. So this will be like a whole new thing for me. I did see Deadpool, of course.
Have you ever read any of the comics? Are you...
It was never my thing.
So if I say Rogue, Storm, Peace, Gambit...
Nope.
I'm just speaking gibberish to you.
Pretty much.
Word.
But I'm excited to learn because
Yeah.
you seem to think it's really cool. And I
do.
trust your opinion.
And one thing that is really awesome about the X-Men 97, which is continuing the 90s animated series, it hit home about culture and a lot of things. And they even talked about, like, there's Morph. Morph is non-binary.
Oh, okay.
Like, they were hitting stuff way before their time.
That's wild. Yeah, in
talking
the
about
90s? That's crazy.
Yeah, dude.
That was definitely not something they talked about in mainstream media.
They didn't really talk about it on the cartoon back then.
Right.
But they implied.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it was in the comics.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely super interested to learn about it. I mean, I really loved the Avengers saga of movies. And before I watched them, I didn't know who the Avengers were. I never really read comics. So maybe this will open up a new saga of movies that I get into. Speaking of movies, Knuckles came out.
I was disappointed.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was disappointed.
So tell me about it, because I haven't watched it.
Okay, so the day it came out, I binged it with my son. We watched all 6 episodes back to back to back to back. And they were about 30 minutes each.
Okay.
I was cool with that. I was like, hey, cool. But I found it quite pointless. It just introduced us to Knuckles more, but it didn't feel like it continued the story. It felt like it was a cash grab.
Okay. I played like a couple Sonic games when I was growing up, but I never got much more into Sonic than that. So, like, you know, with that kind of context, like, explain to me, like, more what specifically let you down.
I feel like they could have done without making it. It didn't serve a purpose. It felt like a cash grab.
Okay.
Like, it
I'm
didn't
not
really
up to date on the Sonic
continue the
lore.
storyline.
Okay.
At the end of the second Sonic, you have Shadow showing up.
Okay.
And it didn't, not one mention of Shadow. He's probably going to be in the third movie, but like I thought at least they would give like a teaser at the end or something to continue it over. Sonic was only in the first episode, and it mostly looked like it was from movie, just put in there kind of stuff.
Yeah.
His main friend, the Donut Lord, the dude he meets in the first movie, he wasn't in it.
Right.
His wife was, but that's about it. It felt like a cash grab, dude.
Okay. Yeah, I see what
Yeah.
you mean. That kind of sucks. While you were talking, I was thinking about some of the Sonic games I used to play. Did you played Wii, right? At least a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever play those Sonic Olympic games, like Mario and Sonic Olympic games?
Yes.
Dude, I was thinking about the winter one. I used to play that one all the time. I got like really, really good at it. I don't think I have a point to this story. I just like just a wave of nostalgia just came over me as I was thinking about it. But you know,
My favorite Sonic game was Sonic 3D Blast.
which one was that on?
It came out on the Sega Genesis.
Okay, yeah.
I remember when that game came out, I bought it and I just kept playing it and playing it. I think it was like in the 5th grade, dude.
One Sonic game I never had, but my friends had, and it looked really cool, and I always wanted to own it. It was called Sonic Unleashed, I think. And the whole plot was like,
I remember that
Sonic
game.
was like,
I never played it, but I remember it.
he was like a were-Sonic at nighttime. He would turn into like a werewolf
Yeah.
kind of Sonic. And it always looked so cool to me, but my parents never got it for me. It was so sad. Now it's time for our new segment, Captured. Today we're talking to concert photographer Nick Zimmer.
All right, we're here with Nick Zimmer. What's up, Nick?
What's up? How's it going, fellas?
It's going good.
Pretty good.
Tell people about yourself. How long have you been into photography?
Jesus. I have been photographing shows, I think, since 2005 is when I got my first real camera. And I've been going strong at it since then.
Well, what was that camera at that time?
Nikon D40X.
And are you still shooting with Nikon now?
Yeah, I'm still a Nikon guy after all these years. Don't see a reason to switch. It's done me well.
Word. So when you started shooting and you started taking photos, what was the first thing you approached shooting?
I think the first thing I ever shot with a photo pass was the Nintendo Fusion Tour, maybe.
So you started with concerts. That was
yeah,
your first go-to, yeah.
Yeah, I started taking my point and shoot to shows when I was in high school. Took a shot when I saw Taking Back Sunday with Blink-182 on Blink's last tour before they broke up. Thought the shot was real cool. And I was like, I'd like to keep doing this. And I've just been shooting concerts ever since.
Right on. After that moment, leading up to the next moment, what was the next shows? How did you get more involved and how to get into shows and get that access so you could do that?
Yeah. So I was already going to a ton of shows even before I got a camera. State Theater in St. Pete, that was there all the time. 688 Skate Park before Transitions / Epic Problem was ever a thing. Just started making friends. I had a friend who ran a webzine at the time. Thought it was real cool. Decided to start my own. Tim, I believe you know all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I got started myself.
Yeah,
It's
been so long since I've ran that the memories are those are the memories that are now starting to leave my brain as I get old. But yeah, I started my own webzine, started reaching out to people about passes, doing interviews, reviewing albums. It's just kind of grown and spiraled from there.
Let's talk about some shows. How many shows off the top of just ballpark number do you think you've been to in your lifetime? Let me guess. I was going to say 10,000.
Not that many, but
it's up there.
I've been to a lot. Yeah, I've been going just from even just attending steadily now for over 20 years.
Out of all those shows, the ones that you have went and taken photos for, which ones stand out to you?
So I know you briefly mentioned this while we were talking before getting into this, that the Wonder Years show at Transitions.
Yeah.
First of all, the sweatiest show I've ever been to in my life. It was the most disgustingly hot show of all time. That one really stands out as being one of the most fun shows I've ever shot.
That was an interesting night. I remember I went to Busch Gardens in the day, and then you hit me up and you're like, yo, you want to go see this band? And I'm like, sure, why not? I've never, you've been talking to me about the Wonder Years. I didn't listen to them yet, never seen anything about them, had no idea. I was blown away that night.
Unreal. They're the best band. I've seen them somewhere around 40 times now, shot them probably half as many. Just the coolest band.
Yeah, I remember just each time I saw them, it was on a bigger stage. I would say bands like that you've seen grow from pretty much playing an empty room to playing the bigger rooms. What other bands do you think you have shot that you've seen grown and seen an evolution over the years?
One of the current ones, since I've moved to Nashville, would be Free Throw.
Oh,
when I moved here, started seeing them play basements, people's houses, and now they're playing huge venues. And it's been really cool to see that progression.
Yeah, have you been to a lot of basement shows?
Oh,
obviously, there's no basement shows down here.
Yeah,
you know that.
I always talk about how envious I am of anyone who lives anywhere but here.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing you're missing out on in Florida. But I mean, you still got house venues down there.
Yeah, but that's not nearly as cool as going under the house.
Yeah,
sure.
Free Throw, though, to see Free Throw in a basement would be unreal. I can only imagine. Like I've seen videos of like some of their basement shows.
Incredible band. They're awesome
unreal.
dudes. It's been cool seeing that growth.
For sure.
During your experience doing photography, you've done more than just shoot shows. You have done band promos. You have done festivals. You have gone on tours. Tell us about some of that.
Yeah. So promos are things that like I kind of got into a little later doing seriously because I was never really comfortable in like wrangling people, directing people on like what to do, where to stand. Concerts are so chaotic that you don't really have to think about what you're doing. I'm just, pointing and shooting somewhere. I don't have to tell people what to do. Yeah, that one was a little later. I've been doing that more. I did my first tour in 2010 with a band called From the Embrace. Toured with them through 2014. Saw most of this country, Canada, Mexico. Had the best time. Still friends with all those guys. And then I moved to Nashville and took 9 years off of touring. And then last year did my first two short ones with a band from here called Still Here, and then a band from Alabama called Stay Lost. And getting back out was awesome. The second run I did was around Furnace Fest last year. The band Stay Lost, we did dates with Symphony in Peril. I don't know if you remember the old drive-by mosh videos on YouTube, where the guys would like ask people for directions, and then a bunch of people would get out of a car and start just like hardcore dancing. And there was a breakdown played. Yeah, that was Symphony in Peril. So being able to tour alongside those guys so much later was real cool. And yeah, I do a lot of festivals. I do a lot of work here in Nashville in the country music world, which is totally different, but it's still a blast. The production is top notch.
Oh, it looks like so much fun. Like any clip I see of like some ripping bar in Nashville, Tennessee, it looks like I would die to be.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And everyone here is like good at what they do. So like, I don't go downtown a lot. If I do, it's because I'm shooting something. But like every bar has live music going at all times, and you just walk by and hear it, and it's like none of it is bad.
Yeah.
Like everyone's actually good at what they're doing. So it's pretty cool. And then I come down to Florida every year. I shoot Fest. This will be my 10th year doing that this year.
I actually wanted to talk about Fest. And, well, more specifically, the High Dive.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if you saw, after 13 long years, the High Dive is leaving.
Under that name.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's been around way longer.
That's true.
Tim and I went there for a show one time.
Yeah.
Common Ground, Senses Fail, The Ghost Inside, Man Overboard, and Transit.
Yes, that was a heck of a show.
It was one of the most obscure lineups I've ever seen on a show, but I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was real cool. And like Gainesville, total ghost town, not Fest weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I stopped through there once on a tour. I expected more from it because I hear a lot about the Gainesville music scene, but honestly, it was a little underwhelming.
Yeah, it can be real hit or miss outside of Fest, but right now they've got a lot going on. There's a cool scene there.
Oh, totally.
Give it another shot.
All right, I might have to.
What is your favorite show you've seen at that venue?
I've got two. Last year, I got to see the Wonder Years do an acoustic set there. They started one of the days of Fest. They were the first band to play. Did just a super, super intimate, great sounding acoustic show. And then I saw Modern Baseball do a Killers cover set there.
I have seen that video. I've seen that video more times than I care to admit.
You have to show me that
video.
That is
one of my favorite bands covering another one of my favorite bands. I love that video so much.
That was awesome. You'll probably see me in the crowd somewhere taking photos.
Speaking of that show, the fact, this is like just a one-off thing, but the fact that Brendan Lukens nailed the riff to Mr. Brightside, like no problem. That is a hard ass riff. Like it is so hard. And he just played it. No problem.
Talking about the bass riff?
No, the intro guitar riff. It doesn't sound that hard. It is incredibly hard. Like super weird chords. He nailed it.
I've never been like a Killers guy, but at the time, Modern Baseball was taking over, and I've always enjoyed them. I was like, I'm going to check this out, and it was real cool.
Yeah, if I remember right, Ian sang most of it, right? The bass player.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another. Ian throughout their whole discography only sang lead on one song, and it was some really obscure one-off song. So it was kind of weird for him to sing the whole cover set, but he did.
Do you think they're going to come back, Nick? Modern baseball?
At this point, everyone does.
Yeah, it feels like they're dropping hints. Like, it really feels like it.
I really hope they do, because I didn't get into them until like 2 years ago.
Yeah, same here. I didn't really get into the Midwest stuff until like a couple years ago.
Real good band. Saw them a handful of times. Saw them with the Wonder Years a whole bunch. But yeah, they're great. I feel like it'll happen. Have Heart said they would never come back, and here we are on the second reunion.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You said you went to Furnace Fest. What's some of the cool stuff you've seen there? I have not had a chance to make it out there. I have wanted to go so many times. I bet it's hot in there. Is it hot in there?
It's disgustingly hot. It's Alabama in late summer, so it's not too far off from Florida, late summer.
Do you know anything about Furnace Fest, Rumble?
No, I've heard the name, but that's about it.
So kind of explain to him where it's at.
It sounds unpleasant.
It's at the Sloss Furnaces in Birmingham, Alabama, and they've got
what
3
furnaces?
stages. Sloss,
Okay.
and it's a historical landmark now.
Okay.
But they've got 3 stages. There's one in the like furnace shed, and then there's a big like main stage, and then a small stage by the pond. And the shed stage is just like all the big like heavy hitters, like Hatebreed
Yeah.
headlined one of the days last year. But yeah, it's very hot and humid. The sound in the shed is not that great, but just the
bet.
experience itself is.
Is it at least
awesome.
better than Neptune's?
Anything is better than Neptune.
I agree.
Neptune's.
You
Lounge?
played at Neptune's.
Neptune's
Yes.
Lounge? Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering if that's what you were referencing. Yeah. That is one hell of a venue.
I've seen some really interesting shows at Neptune's, and not one of them ever sounded good.
No, yeah, they all sound terrible. I've played a few shows there. I played this one show with this like this one band that was a weird blend of like the worst parts of Deftones and the worst parts of emo. A rapper and like a metal band, all at Neptune's on one night. It was and like no one was there either.
That checks out. That sounds exactly like most Neptune shows.
There's something about Neptune's that I like love just a little bit though. Like it's just the right amount of gross.
Yeah, it's like it's a cool little spot. I'm glad it exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just wish it was a little better.
It's a rite of passage here.
Oh yeah,
For
absolutely.
sure. What were we talking about before Neptune's? Oh, the Furnace Fest.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a liability waiting to happen. I bet they have med tents around every corner.
Yeah, there's usually an injury report afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good time. The first year it came back was 2021, and I just went and attended. It was the first time I'd been to a festival in I couldn't even tell you how many years without my camera. And it was real weird, but I had a real great time. And then I shot it the last 2 years. And it's just been a total blast. It's very hot, very dirty, great crowd, good sense of community there. All the bands rock.
Awesome.
Right on.
I recommend it. This is the last year of it, supposedly, in its like current form. They haven't said what they're doing beyond this year, but I do know like it's Misery Signal's last US show. So that's reason enough to go.
Right on. Outside of that festival, what other festivals have you shot?
CMA Fest is one that I do every year now here in Nashville. Just total different world from what I'm used to.
That's a big job.
Yeah.
Country Music Awards?
Didn't you have like was it Thomas Rhett picture somewhere?
There's one floating around. But yeah, I do their awards and
That's sick.
festival. Great crew. Enjoy everyone I'm working with there. It's always a blast. It's also very hot. It's in beginning of June every year, so it's already like 95 degrees.
Yeah.
So it's like it feels like you're at Warped Tour weather-wise. I come down to Florida, do Fest every year, and those are the ones that like I do consistently now. I don't.
But
do
in
a
the
ton of
past,
traveling for Fest. Oh, I've shot Warped Tour 800 times.
800?
Yeah.
Realistically, how many Warped Tours have you been to? I feel like it's been a lot.
I went to every Warped Tour from 2003 until the last full year.
My God, that is the year I was born.
Yeah. So I think it was 2003. I think the last full year was 2017 or 2018.
I know I was 15. If that helps.
Sick.
I guess 2018 then.
Yeah, I'm old. I photographed it every year from 2006 on.
What are some cool things you saw at Warped Tour you thought that you probably would have never seen anywhere else? What made it special to you? What memories do you have of Warped? Because everybody has their memories. I remember the first time that you took me, it was my first time going to Warped Tour in '08. And like, I was not used to the bands there. At the time, I was listening to bands like Seether and Nirvana and a lot of radio rock and a lot of stuff like that. And you introduced me to a whole new world. That's how I discovered Evergreen Terrace, A Day to Remember, 4 Years Strong, As I Lay Dying, before Tim's issues. But anyways.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing on its own.
Yep.
But seeing some bands like play the really small stages there and just watching them blow up, like seeing Avenged Sevenfold play one of the tiny little metal stages at like noon, and now they're an arena band.
Yeah.
Same with like A Day to Remember. Seeing Title Fight play was real cool.
Oh my God. I would love to see Title Fight.
Another band that I wish would come back.
What like era did you see Title Fight in? Because that first album is like nothing like anything else they put out.
I think it was like closer to that end, like maybe like the Floral Green era.
Okay, yeah. In my mind, Floral Green is when they kind of like made the more switch to like the shoegazier kind of feel. Like that first album definitely felt like more pop punky to me. Which, don't complain, I love both.
Yeah, I don't dislike any Title Fight.
Yeah, no, they're a great band.
I haven't actually listened to them.
You should listen to Floral Green.
Okay.
After this, we are listening to Head in the Ceiling Fan. That is what we are going to do. That song will change you.
You're messing up.
I do that.
I think that song actually rearranged my molecular structure when I heard it for the first time. It is so good.
Yeah, the first run that I was on last year, the band Still Here covered Secret Society every night, and it was just
that's
awesome
dope.
hearing that. Yeah.
Speaking of cool emo covers, I just played this gig this weekend, and one of the bands, just this like young little group of Midwest emo kids, did a fantastic cover of Your Graduation.
Do you remember their name?
I'm really, really struggling to conjure it up.
You're failing.
We're gonna edit it in post. We're gonna like really poorly patch the name of the band in there right there. I'm sorry.
Link in bio.
Yeah. I'm gonna find it. I promise.
All right, we were talking about Warped Tour.
Yeah.
Was there anything unique? I remember seeing one thing that stuck out to me is when I saw Gym Class Heroes in '08. Dude comes out with a Guitar Hero controller and starts playing Lamb of God. And they do, what fucking song? Laid to Rest cover. Those kind of moments.
Yeah, I very vividly remember that being a thing that happened. I was not at that set. I wish I was. That sounds like it would have been cool.
I found the band.
What band?
They're called Better Place. Better Place from Florida. It doesn't say anything more specific than that. You did a really cool cover of Your Graduation. Good job.
Hell yeah.
There you go.
Things that stick out on Warped Tour, just like bands that were maniacs, like seeing Let Live or The Chariot play was always special, just because those bands were so good.
Yeah.
And having that kind of energy in the Florida heat in like July and August, I couldn't imagine. Pains. I don't know how we did it back then, because I think about being outside like that in that kind of weather now for like 10 minutes, and I'm like, that sucks. I don't want to do it.
Yeah, that's why I haven't gone to Welcome to Rockville. I can't do it.
It's a lot. I could just stay home in the air conditioning.
I could do it if I got VIP, but I can't afford VIP.
I think another photography friend of mine got press for Rockville.
Jackson?
Yeah.
Cool
So
beans.
that should be pretty cool for him.
Did you ever get to shoot Rockville?
I have not.
Word. I know you shot a few of the Mayhem Fest. Did you ever get did you ever shoot Uproar?
I did shoot Uproar. God, it was
I think you shot one with me, right?
I think so, yeah. The POD played the one I shot.
No, you shot that one, and I think Brad went to that one. Because I didn't go to the one with POD. I went to the one with Seven Dust.
I don't think I've ever actually seen Seven Dust.
Really? Do you even like
I
Seven
know
Dust?
I've been at Seven Dust.
Do you have an urge?
I do.
Okay, cool.
I got no beef with Seven Dust. I think I've been at shows of theirs, but just somehow each time just like didn't happen to see them.
Word. They're great live.
That's what I've heard.
Did you ever get to shoot Ozfest? I've never asked you that. I've always been curious. Did you ever attend any Ozfest?
I did. I went to 2 of them, and I shot one with, I got a photo pass, and at that time I was still just using a point and shoot. So I had no business actually having a photo pass, but I think it was 2006, I want to say. But my pass was only good for the second stage. So me and the people that I was with, there was another person who had a photo pass. We left after the second stage, which we shouldn't have. You know, Ozfest kind of rocked.
I regret never getting to go.
Yeah, that last one I saw in West Palm Beach that had like Atreyu was on it, Bleeding Through, Walls of Jericho. And then I went for the first time in '04 when Sabbath played, and that was awesome.
So you got to see Sabbath.
I did. That main stage was Superjoint Ritual, Slayer, Dimmu Borgir, Judas Priest, and Black Sabbath.
Sick.
Were you just attending or did you shoot that one?
I just attended that one.
Still, that's awesome. Seeing
Absolutely.
Black
It was
Sabbath,
so sick.
that's unreal.
And it was the complete original lineup. Cool beans. That's a once in a lifetime opportunity, especially now. That's not going to happen again, I don't think.
Yeah, no.
No, they'll never play again.
Let's talk more about photo stuff. What gear are you currently using?
I currently use a Nikon D750. That's been my workhorse now for the last 6 or 7 years. I use a variety of lenses. I don't always use Nikon lenses. Big fan of Sigma and Tamron, what they're doing these days. But yeah, basically everything I shoot now, I use just either a 24 to 70 or a 70 to 200. That covers basically everything I need.
What would you tell a photographer starting out? Like, what's a good starter setup to you?
Anything you can get your hands on, honestly.
Yeah?
Yeah, no. It's even like back when I was using first entry level Nikon, it gets the job done. And then the glass, the lenses that you use are going to be more important than the body most of the time. So just learn how to use what you have and master that. And then you can start working your way into more expensive gear if that's where you're wanting to go. But don't just go out and blow like 10K on your first setup and like have no idea how to use it.
Yeah. I feel like that's something I would do.
I hear a lot that like people say creativity is born out of limitations, you know? So like, you know, a bad camera in the hands of the right person could make for some incredibly creative photos, you know?
Absolutely.
It's not,
Absolutely.
and that obviously relates over to music, which is where I apply it to my life. Sure, $3,000 Les Paul might sound objectively better than my $100 Les Paul, but that doesn't mean I can't make some cool noises with this one.
Right on, dude.
Same thing, yeah.
You have a beautiful soul, Rumble.
Thanks, Tim. I don't know how to take that. I was like weirdly sensual. We had like a moment there.
I wasn't trying to be known. I
I've
was
watched
being
how he
sincere.
looked into your eyes.
Yes, he saw it. Do you have a favorite venue that you've shot at?
That's a great question.
Ooh, favorite venue. I really liked Revolution on Long Island. I got to shoot a couple shows up there. I got to shoot Title Fight as like a little 500 cap room.
Oh, dope.
There was a little festival up there called Spring Mixtape Fest. I went to see Title Fight the night before that in New York City. But the next night they played this festival in just like a tiny 500 cap room. Bane played, Pianos Become the Teeth. And there was just a cool little spot. Really enjoyed that. Shooting The End here in Nashville. I always have a good time there.
Mm.
And just anywhere that doesn't have the worst lighting in the world. I can find something good in that.
All right.
Keep the red lights away from me.
Dope.
Right on. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Nick?
The Mosh Lives '08 tour. I still have zero recollection of actually being there, but I totally believe you that we were.
Absolutely, man. It was right before I went back to Virginia. Like we started working together and we started hanging out. We went to a few local shows. We went and saw Jimmy's Chicken Shack. We went to Mosh Lives at the Orpheum in Tampa. It was Amir, Recon, Legea, On Broken Wings, Inwell, After the Burial.
See, I'm a big On Broken Wings guy, and it pains me to not remember that show.
Dude, that show went off. It was packed out. I have never experienced deathcore or hardcore shows like that, especially in a small venue. Like it was gnarly.
That OG Orpheum was awesome. I saw the Wonder Years there for the first time. That was a cool little spot.
Forgive me for not knowing. I know the building they're in now, they just moved to. The building before that, is that the same one you're talking about?
No.
Okay.
It is not. That was
there's been 3 Orpheums.
Yeah. Do you know where the Ritz is?
Yeah. I saw the front bottoms there. It was awesome.
It's like right down the road, right? It was like,
It was, yeah, it was like kind of catty corner to it, but like 2 blocks over.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
If you walked out to the side street, you used to be able to see it.
Yeah, no, I love the Ritz. That's a great venue. I love the Front Bottom so much.
I remember being there for Summer Slaughter Tour, and there was a bomb threat.
Whoa, what?
We all had. Were you there for that one?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, I remember now.
Lord almighty.
That was something, wasn't it?
That was
Did they ever
insane.
figure out what happened? Like everybody had to go outside. The show got delayed.
I don't know if they ever, I think they just found out they were just like, oh, this was a prank of some sorts. But yeah, man, that messed the whole day up.
Yeah, they had to shut down the whole like road in front of there. Like the whole everybody was out in the road.
Shit.
There's an article on Lambgoat about it.
Really?
Yeah.
The only show I saw there was an absolutely incredible show. Sydney Sprague opened. I don't know if either of you know her, but she's very, very good. Oso, which I am sure you know, and I don't know about you. They're also very, very good. And then the Front Bottoms, right off of their 2020 album, In Sickness and in Flames, which a lot of people didn't like. And I think those people need to go back and listen to it again because I think they were too harsh on it the first time.
Did you listen to it, Nick?
I've not heard that one actually.
It's good. It's like people are mad that Brian isn't writing like a ratty ass 19-year-old teenager from New Jersey anymore. He's almost 40. Like people are getting mad that he's maturing because they like the immature music, which like I get it. I like it too, but I don't want it to be artificial. You know, that it was great when it lasted.
It's weird hearing like 40-year-old dudes sing about 20-year-old problems.
That's why like I don't like a lot of what like older pop punk bands are putting out recently. Like I feel like a lot of them are doing that. And in my opinion, the Front Bottoms aren't. Don't get me wrong. Their album that they put out in 2023, I forget what it's called. Oh, You Are Who You Hang Out With. That was not a very good album. I have to admit, that one wasn't very good.
Haven't heard that one either.
No, I feel like a lot of pop punk bands who keep writing new music, like Blink, keep writing high school ass songs, and it's not cool anymore. And also, Tom DeLonge can't sing.
Rumble can be straightforward sometimes.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. God, some of those recent videos of Blink-182's current concerts are kind of rough. I don't know if you've seen them.
He brought up Oso, which made me thinking of Spanish Love Songs because they're on tour with them. You got to go in the studio with them, right?
I did spend some time in the studio with Spanish Love Songs. So.
How was
super
that?
cool.
They're a great band.
Yeah, they are a great band. Awesome people. They're actually here tomorrow night. But yeah, everyone should listen to them. All their albums rock. Super nice people. Music's just as good. Being in the studio with them was tight.
What was it when they were working on one of their albums?
Yeah, it was while they were working on their last album, No Joy.
Sweet. So you got to pretty much be part of the process, just kind of hearing it in the background?
Yeah. I got to hear like some of the early mixes of it. It's really cool to see how it actually turned out. The album's great.
Awesome. Thank you for talking to us, Nick.
Hell yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll have you back on one day.
for sure.
I'm all for it.
All right, man. You take care.
See ya.
All right, take it easy, guys.
And now it's time for DIY or Die with Will Birdwell about pre-production and what to do in the studio.
Hey, what's going on? It's Will, and we're talking again on DIY or Die. I'm here at the Raven Makerspace, and today we're going to talk about, again, our fictional band that we've been discussing, Red 5, which is our 90s hardcore act that's a little nerdy and sci-fi inspired. But today we're going to discuss with our fictional band how to go to the studio and do your first recordings, all right? A lot of bands get excited to finally record and they're all ready and, oh yeah, we're going to drop money on single and we're going to do the thing, or, oh, let's just do the full album because we're totally ready. So let's figure out what's the best way to approach this and how to be successful the first time. So again, we're in the context of if I want my music to become a commercial product to be successful in that mainstream market, whatever your market and genre tends to be. But first, you're going to want to start with something we call pre-production. Now, you're going to ask, what is pre-production? First, let's start with what pre-production isn't, okay? Pre-production is not writing the song, okay? Pre-production is not rehearsing the song. Pre-production is, in fact, figuring out how you want your song to go, how you want your song to sound, and how you want your song to feel, and any sort of elements maybe that are required to accomplish that goal. So what I mean by that is your producer or engineer or whoever you're going to work with is certainly going to ask you for a couple things when you reach out to them. And one of those things is going to be reference tracks. And a reference track is going to be for a couple different purposes. So a reference track could be simply a song that you enjoy and you like how that particular song sounds overall. Or it could be a specific thing like, hey, I'm going to give you Avalanche by The Ghost Inside because I really love these guitar tones in particular. Or, this bass tone is really gritty. Or I really like how this vocal sticks out in a certain way in body count. All of those things are pre-production notes that are going to be helpful by having these reference tracks. You're also going to want to lay out the song. And by that, I mean really map out, is it a verse? Is it a chorus? Is it a pre-chorus? Is it a bridge? Give those parts of your song some sort of label, even if you write in a non-traditional style. For example, prog metal is traditionally known for being all over the place, right? Give those some things a label, whether it's A, B, C, D, E, and F, right? But you want to assign them a role. Why? Because your engineer is going to be able to bring out some of those nuances in what would traditionally happen in like a rise or a fall in terms of the climax of your song, if we knew what the roadmap of your song was, right? And also it's going to help us be able to flag, as an engineer, be able to flag where maybe we need to do some vocal comps or start layering guitars even further. All of those things are just going to help your session go smoother if you can lay out some sort of map. Now, what happens if you don't do pre-production? You can ask many, many bands, and they will tell you that they did not prepare for their studio session at all. And when they got in, they found that they were very much in over their head in terms of how much work has to get done all of a sudden. So by preparing ahead of time, what you're also going to do is not waste your money. The moment you walk in there, you should be able to start accomplishing something, as opposed to kind of like doing all this legwork you should have done ahead of time for free. Now you're doing it at the expense of the engineer's clock. So how do you pick a studio? Well, there's a couple different methods, but think back to how we were talking about finding different ways to get on a tour, right? What are your currently favorite bands doing? And you can go and find out where they recorded, because they'll proudly tell you that, this was recorded at the House of Loud with David Bendith, or this was recorded at, Andrew Wade's studio, the Audio Compound in Orlando. Whatever the case is, it's really easy to find out where someone recorded a song, because they're usually very proud of their work. Once you've decided on this place, start comparing and seeing if there's any overlap. For example, a producer that I really enjoy, the music that he's put out, is Kurt Ballou from Converge. His studio is known for capturing a particular style of sound in this very raw kind of sense. And so the bands that go there, they receive exactly that. And so maybe if Red 5 was looking for a similar kind of gritty feel, we would go to Kurt Ballou's studio, as opposed to maybe Audio Compound, where Andrew Wade does a little bit more processed kind of sound. And that's just, comparison between two different studios right there. Now, in a studio, you have some different kinds of staff that people don't often understand is a very distinct difference. One of them is a producer, and one of them is an engineer. An engineer is very skilled at the physical act of recording or mixing or mastering in a technical sense, okay? That's why they're an engineer, the doing portion of it. And that's not to say that your engineer may not have some artistic creativity or some ability to imagine a certain sonic landscape for you, but their role is to be a technical expert for you, to capture your best sound if it's your tracking engineer, to mix your best sound in the technical sense of giving you the correct tools to accomplish a goal. Maybe your guitars are too wild. Hey, use this specific compressor. It's appropriate for this scenario. A mastering engineer, again, picking the nuances out of your master to be appropriate for what you're trying to do. A producer, on the other hand, is the creative aspect. You want to hire a producer for their expertise in the creative. Think of a producer as the head chef of a kitchen, right? They maybe create the recipe. They've tasted ahead of time. They have the vision. And then you have line cooks who inherently are actually more important. They're the ones getting the meal cooked. Those are your engineers, and they are the experts at what they do. But it is the head chef kind of orchestrating this whole thing, right? So a producer, you're hiring them to give your musical goal a vision, an endpoint, a checkpoint. And that producer keeps you on track creatively so that when you're in the middle of your song and kind of getting bogged down in the over and over of doing 90 takes of guitar, your producer understands in the back of their mind, though, why we need all those layers. Why? Because this thing needs to slam like the voice of God. So the producer, their expertise is the creative. They help you achieve your musical vision. An engineer achieves the technical expertise to execute it. Okay. Now, oftentimes you'll find studios that are operated by a producer engineer combination, right? And that's kind of what we do here at the Raven Makerspace. I myself am a producer engineer. Sometimes when Tim comes and works here, he's a producer engineer. That combination is becoming far more common because now engineers are, budding engineers end up actually being also passionate musicians, right? And now we have this meeting of the mind, in one person. And there's a lot of cool things that can come of that because then mixing really does truly become kind of like an art form in and of itself. So picking a studio is important because you're going to impart a certain character onto your music depending on where you record and who you involve in that recording. But once you decide on who's really the best fit for your goals, certainly then you have to decide, okay, how do we pay these people? Because again, these are services that you're purchasing. Now, often there is a deposit up front to hold your date, and then some time will pass. Maybe you'll do the mix phase after the recording, and there maybe is another fee, less of the balance. And then before you receive the final version, right, where you both agree, you being the band and engineer, meaning them, that you agree, yes, this is the mix we both love. And then, the balance is paid and you receive everything, right? There's often other ways of doing that. Of course, you could pay completely up front. However, if you've never had a relationship with that engineer producer, I would strongly advise ever paying completely up front for a recording. You never know how your project is going to go. And that's not to talk bad about any producers or engineers. And it's certainly not to talk bad about you as an artist, but it's a dynamic. It's new chemistry between people. So never pay completely 100% for your recording until you have received that recording. But on the flip side, I also want you to be wary of very, very inexpensive studios. And the reason for that is there has to be a value to that labor. And certainly people can overcharge, undercharge, charge what they think something is worth. But I want you to understand that if you're working with a talented and quality producer or engineer, they're going to understand what value they bring to the table. Now, whether or not your budget can sustain that value is a different story. Don't get suckered into paying something like $20 or $30 a song. It doesn't make sense for the amount of labor that should go into your love project, right? Think about what you would want to be paid if you were making something creatively, which you are, right? You're making music. How much do you want your music to be worth? So then take that value and apply it to how much that engineer should value what their worth is. And that's going to be a good example of where you think your budget should lie. Once you've established that, right, like I said, there's usually a deposit to hold a calendar date, and then you do the actual day of. So in the meantime, while you wait for your studio time, you know what you should be doing? Rehearse your butts off. I couldn't possibly imagine a time where you haven't rehearsed enough because, listen, you're ready to record the song when you hate playing your song because you played it so many times. Truly. You need to know it like the back of your hand. It's not time for you to figure out your song in the studio. Now, there are scenarios where that happens, right? When we're getting paid $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 to make an album, right? And we can lock ourselves in an album or in a studio for a month, and they expect us to come out with an album. Yes, that's the time you're getting paid to write one in the studio. But when you are DIY and you are paying for your studio time, that is not the time to rehearse, okay? That is the time to put out the product. So make sure that your band is well rehearsed know the parts intimately. If you haven't practiced your parts to a click track, start doing it now. If your drummer doesn't use a click track, start praying now. Because you need to get to a certain level of accuracy, right? The studio, you can treat it like a microscope. All of your weaknesses will show. And that is something that you need to be mindful of as a band dynamic, especially. Certainly as an individual artist, if you're approaching this, you're going to run into this kind of moral quandary. But in a band dynamic, it can be very dangerous. And a lot of bands have actually broken apart in the studio for this reason. When you are under a microphone, you are under a microscope. All of your failures, all of your little nuances, your idiosyncrasies in playing, they all show up loudly. And you have to start getting comfortable with your mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes, but you want to strive for perfection, right? Don't beat yourself up on it. Just keep going towards the goal. But if you don't mentally prepare for these kinds of things in the studio, your band is going to suffer greatly. And what I mean by that is you're going to start having people having panic attacks. You start having people getting anger and flare-ups and attitudes and all of that. And guess what all that does? It prevents you from doing the take. And that costs you money, but more importantly, it may even cost you your band. So talk about these things ahead of time with your band. Understand that you're going to need some grace amongst your bandmates, okay? Things will be difficult. There will be frustrations. There will be screaming and yelling and, I can't believe I did that again and I goofed it some more. And it's okay, right? But treat everybody with some patience, some compassion in this process because it is hard the first time. Everyone's first time is difficult. There is nobody who has it easy the first time, promise. But when you get to the day of the studio, it's exciting, right? Make sure that you're well rested, drink a lot of water, be hydrated, okay? Make sure you have a plan to eat. Don't get lost in the sauce and forget to eat. And then you're bogged down. And when you come back for day 2 and you're not ready, right? You got to take care of your body and take care of your mind in this, right? But let's walk through how your day of the studio is going to go. When you get there, hopefully things will be kind of preset for you. Maybe they did some of their legwork by receiving your pre-production notes. Another reason to do pre-production. But assuming you gave them pre-production notes, you could tell them, hey, we need a Marshall JCM 800 stack. We need an Ampeg SVT, and we need kind of a pretty modern sounding 5-piece drum set. Okay, done. We got it. So we're going to lay down some scratch tracks, and scratch tracks are the guide for which we'll go back and make everything perfect. It makes things so much easier to just have a little voice kind of like guiding you along. I'll think of it as like karaoke, right? But for your voice or for your instrument, you're going to have that little voice of you in your headphones kind of guiding you along. So you never forget anything, but also so that you can always compare and have a good reference point of, could I do it better than this? So you'll lay down the scratch tracks. Probably you'll end up playing it live together as a band. That's usually ideal because then it really captures the spirit, the energy of that live performance. Then you'll go back and start layering. So you'll do drums first, mainly because drums kind of take the longest to set up for miking purposes. After that, you'll do your rhythm tracks. So bass guitar followed by regular guitar, possibly any sort of lead if it has like the hook in it or something like that. Then probably your lead vocal will come next. The lead vocal will also take some time, of course, to nuance the best kind of takes out of that. And then maybe we'll do any sort of layers or ad-libs or any other types of things that need to pop in, right? That's really kind of like how you should prioritize things. And there's a reason for that. If you perhaps don't have a complete day to get everything done and it doesn't work out, you can always kind of refresh and get back to it the next day in order. But if you're bouncing around, it's hard to kind of keep the momentum going. So let's wrap up our day at the studio. All right. It's time to go. And you're kind of ready to have this little bit of a weird, awkward conversation about, well, when do I get my stuff? Right. So how's the way that we should ask for our stuff that we recorded? One of the things that you should do when you go to the studio is come prepared with a drive of some sort or a way to receive files. Don't expect everybody to have Mac. If you are an Apple person, don't expect to be able to airdrop everywhere. Always bring some sort of drive with you that you can immediately offload that project to. And then certainly up front, before you even step foot in the studio, you should have had a conversation about how do I get my masters? I want you as a DIY artist to always retain control of your masters. It is so undeniably important Do not let anybody ever tell you you can't have them. It's not true. They are you. All right. So immediately get them. Now, if there's some reason as to why, perhaps like you're doing a process like tape, if you're doing something crazy like that, I could see why that potentially could be a little bit more not feasible. But have some sort of plan in writing to get control of your masters and your stems. If you're not paying for a mix from this engineer, make sure that you leave with your stems, the recorded audio. They may say, oh, well, I'm going to charge you a fee for that or whatever. There really shouldn't be. It's a matter of clicking a button, if we're totally honest. You can tell them that because they know it's true. All right. I'm going to tell you all the engineer secrets today. But it's a matter of pushing a button that says, consolidate tracks. So make sure that you get your stems. If your engineer is not mixing, make sure you hold on to this stuff because there's no reason for down the road somebody to try to tell you like, oh, I want more money or something like that. Now, if you're buying a complete project from them, it is inappropriate at that point to ask for the stuff because the project is not complete. And the engineer should at least have the ability and the integrity to say, hey, my work is not finished yet. And that is important. If you're buying a complete work from that engineer, you need to let them finish at least a first draft mix. Don't just rip the tracks, then try to do it yourself and then claim it's their work. That's completely inappropriate because going back to what we said about mixing as an art form, you can't claim someone else's work. So make sure you just discuss how do we get the song once we arrive at our endpoint, whether it's just the tracking, whether it's tracking and a mix or tracking mix and a master, how do we get it? And also make sure that it's backed up. And I certainly do not want you to record in any studio where they do not point out to you what their backup drive is because, it only takes one time for power to go out. Oops, there goes your session. So make sure that you see that backup drive before you start your session. Please, please, please. I'm just telling you all these things. Why? I've made all the mistakes already. Come on. To recap, pick your studio based on what you need. Do some pre-production and tell the studio what you'd like to have. Make sure that you understand if that studio has a producer, an engineer, or both. Be sure to budget for the deposit ahead of time and to make sure that you pay to get your stuff at the end. All right. Make sure you rehearse, come prepared, and don't leave without your goods if you paid for them. And that includes stems. Of course, if you're looking to have a great experience recording, you can always come down to the Raven Makerspace in Newport Richey and record with me. I promise it'll be a fun time. And we'll have a blast. And of course, you'll leave with your stems. I'll send it back to Rumble.
Alrighty, thank you for listening to Rumble versus the Airwaves.
Yes, yes, yes.
Don't forget you can check us out at rumblevs.theairwaves on all social media platforms.
Also, www.thenewfury.com. Email us. We got some stickers. Does anyone listen to this at the end? Like, seriously, if you're listening right now,
I feel like we could say whatever we want.
Just email me.
Like, we could say whatever we want, absolved of any, consequence right now. No one's listening. I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Bye.